that part of the problem, listening to a Derek O'Brien, that there is this one-upmanship. There is no sense of common purpose beyond anti-Modiism. The one thing that I gather in the opposition narrative is anti-Modiism. Modi ko hatana hai. But within the opposition, there's this battle, Kejriwal, Mamta, the Congress, for leading that opposition space. Nor is there a Jaiprakash Narayan-like figure to hold it all together.
There is a clear problem, Rajdeep. There is a lack of unity of purpose in opposition, and that is clearly a setback. That is a problem that the opposition has to sort out before 2024. But I have been saying again and again and again, there is no need for grand opposition alliance to take on the BJP. Thinking of challenges, let's think of the country in terms of three geographies, Rajdeep. Let us stop looking for the one challenger to the BJP. There is a geography of the country, about 200 seats, if you start traveling from West Bengal down to Kerala and a few more states, a little less than 200 seats, where BJP is not the dominant party. In fact, BJP is the challenger here. In 2019, out of these 193 seats, BJP managed to win 38, thanks to a very good performance in Bengal. This time, they would be lucky if they pick up 25 in these. So out of 193, BJP would get something around 25, 30 in this first geography. The second geography are places where opposition unity is necessary, maybe needed. These are places like Karnataka, Maharashtra, Jharkhand, Bihar, and so on. These are about 150 seats. BJP got 110. Yes, you need some opposition unity. I suspect that would be somehow cobbled together. Opposition needs to restrict BJP below 100, ideally to 75. The real game, Rajdeep, is in the third geography, which is the Hindi heartland plus minus Bihar plus Gujarat. This is exactly 200 seats. In these 200 seats, BJP has been winning about 175, 180 seats in the last two elections. This is where the real challenge for the opposition is. The question is, in these places, in Uttar Pradesh Samajwadi Party now, and in the rest of the seats, Congress is the principal challenger. Will we see these challengers challenging each other? Would we see Congress diminish from the existing status of a challenger? Do we see Congress getting up and taking on this battle seriously? This is what the real question is. But please remember, BJP would need to win more than 150 seats out of 200 to get majority in the Lok Sabha. Now, this is a very high ask, which they have done in the last two elections.
That's
but
right.
Please remember, if you were BJP, you would be worried. This is a very, very high ask for any political party of the world in any election. With inflation, with unemployment, with your currency down, and incidentally, our economy did not start going down after COVID. Our economy was already going down for several quarters before the pandemic hit our country. So with this state of economy, this is going to be a very, very tough election for the BJP unless the opposition gives up the battle before it begins.
Remember, of course, even in 2019, the numbers were down, and yet the BJP had this huge strike rate in North India. But it brings me to the key question. Is the Congress the weak link? Kumar, Ketkar, you may have heard Derek O'Brien saying the Congress cannot take us for granted when you put a vice president candidate or a presidential candidate, particularly the vice presidential candidate. But importantly, taking off from what Yogendra Yadav said, in the key geography of the country, where elections are decided, it seems that where the battle is BJP versus Congress, we saw both in 2014 and 19, the BJP demolished the Congress. The BJP finds it much more difficult to take on the regional parties than the Congress. In about 190 seats of one-on-one battles, the Congress barely won a dozen. Do you therefore concede that the Congress is the Kamzor Kadi, or the weak link in the opposition, and unless the Congress revives itself, it will remain advantage Bharatiya Janata Party leading up to 2024?
I think you are presuming that last 8 years experience, electoral experience, is all that we have. We have experience of elections even before that. And putting a question on challenger, and again the number of Congress seats that they are losing, you think that in 1996, where was the challenger? Nobody knew Devegowda's name in most of the country, and Devegowda won. Devegowda won means Devegowda was chosen. At that time, the question was not who is the challenger. Similarly, in 1998 also there was no question of who is the challenger. So 1996 election or 1998 elections were fought without any challenger. And in 2004, nobody thought Sonia Gandhi was a challenger to Vajpayee. On the one hand, there was this towering leadership of Vajpayee, and on the other hand, a person who doesn't understand Hindi or India. And yet, Sonia Gandhi built a coalition which won. So I don't think this challenger business. And another point, responding to Yogendra Yadav, let us not forget that even in 1977, under the great leadership of Jayaprakash, South did not vote for Janata Party. Out of something like 130 seats, only 6 seats went to Janata Party, 124 or some such seats went to their respective parties. They did not go, majority of them went to Congress, they did not go to Janata Party. So to say that Jayaprakash magic, Jayaprakash unifying leadership, that helped, that did not help in South, that helped only in the North. So to compare only northern victories, that is northern and partly western victories, Gujarat and UP and Himachal Pradesh and Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh, to say that they are invincible, I think is converting Indian politics only to northern Indian politics. And secondly, the state parties, whether they unite
but you're
or
still
not,
not answering the central question.
BJP,
Is the Congress, no, but
BJP,
Mr. Ketkar, the Congress being the weak link.
They can defeat BJP in their respective parties. Congress is not a calculating factor at all in Tamil Nadu. But BJP did not win. So in Congress need not necessarily be the weaving partner. Congress can lose, Congress can defeat, Congress cannot be and need not be necessarily a kind of a component that unites everybody. Congress will do that. Congress will try to do that. But that election in 2024 is not dependent only on Congress, Sonia, Rahul. Only not. You know how Madhya Pradesh was won. You know how Madhya Pradesh was won and actually sabotaged. You know how Karnataka was won and how it was sabotaged. You know how Goa was won last time and how it was sabotaged. So all these victories at Skullduggery, that does not define 2024. BJP will continue to play Skullduggery game. BJP will continue to play games. All the games of thrones they will play, but that does not mean that the voters are likely to be impressed by that. Voters are already disgusted. Many BJP members privately tell us how disgusted they are with the current rule, because they don't have any access, they don't have any role to play.